Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Channel Your Light, Own Your Intuitive. Are you ready for the super new moon in Aquarius that is right on the tips of us? Most of you have probably felt this at the beginning of this entire week, but also streaming into the following week. It is a very intense energy, and it is I don't give a fuck energy. That's really what it comes down to. It is all about personal empowerment. It's about embracing that Aquarian energy, which is very, very different than the Piscean energy if we're talking about eras. In addition, we're going to Pluto, who's highlighting and bursting the bubbles of all the things, the way that they were, how they were, and why they were. And these are the moments where people are taking their power back or feeling that intense urge to just not care what other people think and just authentically be themselves. And this is epically exciting. And the way that I see it and how I'm seeing what's happening in my communities and how their energy is really growing, as in no longer being willing to be half of them or less than who they authentically are. This is the month where we truly step into our authenticity and actually ask for the things that we want. And we relinquish our wounds from those who did not want us to be all of who we are, or who said we couldn't, or dismissed the authenticity of ourselves. So we're really coming back into this state, and I have a very specific message. We're going to be combining tarot as well as cartomancy, as well as the 4 dimensions. I just keep getting these messages, and I'm being told to share them for this super new moon in Aquarius. I wanted to go back to the 111 portal, or the new moon there. Well, that was a new moon. It was the new moon, which was the completion, culmination, or the illumination of the death of the version of you up till that point. This is how it's coming through. The full moon and the in-between would have illuminated and highlighted a lot of different things that you will have noticed in your life that you do that perhaps is self-sabotage, is what I'm hearing. Whatever is laced with fear or has fear deeply embedded with it. Perhaps all your victim modes came up. Everybody's will be different, but the reason I'm saying this is that new moon in January on the 111 portal until this new moon right now on February the 9th, that was like the completion of the old version of you and the beginnings of this new version of you. You could say a new timeline. This means thinking differently, being differently, doing differently, acting differently, feeling differently, seeing differently. And that is very, very exciting and could not be more perfectly timed for 2024, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, a whole new era. It's very exciting. So the message I keep getting is the Empress energy. You are becoming the Empress energy. This is the message for somebody on here. We're going to bring the Empress is represented in the tarot as earth, fertility, abundance. It's highly feminine energy. Now, if we were to go with the scales of the tarot, it would be, I'm being told to highlight the difference between the High Priestess and the Empress. So I read this amazing little quick blurb on the High Priestess is the workstation. It's the calculative state. It's doing the actual work. And the state of the Empress, that state of being, is the result of all the work being done. Now, the reason why this is being highlighted is there is a distinct difference between the High Priestess and the Empress, the energies of them, what they embody, the fullness or the culmination of each of them and what they represent. I'm being told now to go to cartomancy. So cartomancy, I am being shown the 4 queens: Queen of Hearts, Queen of Spades, Queen of Clubs, Queen of Diamonds. These represent different things in cartomancy. Somebody is moving through the 4 states of the Queen energy. You are already wearing your crown. In fact, you have been wearing your crown, putting on your crown, or learning to wear your crown through the Queen of Hearts energy, through the Queen of Spades energy, through the Queen of Clubs energy, and through the Queen of Diamonds. If we were to go to the tarot and look at this in terms of aspects of hearts, which is love, swords, pentacles, what's the other one? Wands. So it's almost like this year is you embodying your Empress state And why is the state of being of an Empress important? It's not only did you go through all the lessons up until the Queens, you then had to master each state that the Queen represents and wear the Queen's crown in those states. And that's related to the High Priestess. It's the workstation. It's sitting down as the Queen of Hearts and really unpacking and learning and evolving and wearing that crown. Then it's stepping into the Queen of Swords and cutting shit out that does not align with you, does not honor you, and does not respect you, or is simply not in the same frequency as you are. You would have had to go through those lessons, evolve and learn, put on your crown. Same with the wands. These are 4 aspects of the self and the journey into the state of becoming an Empress. Whoever this message is for, you are stepping into your Empress energy. This is different than the High Priestess because the High Priestess oversees all 4 queens, is how I'm being shown it right now. And the High Priestess, as the individual calculations of each area or the work or the behind the scenes or doing all the stuff that's very calculated or putting all the pieces together. The High Priestess doesn't put all the pieces together in this specific reading. Again, this is very specific information. It can be read multiple ways. I'm reading it based on intuitively what's coming through. Somebody is going from wearing all 4 queens in all 4 aspects, all 4 dimensions, and you are bringing them into one whole complete picture, state of being, absolute feminine energy. But it also marries the wholeness of, I'm hearing, it's mastering the wholeness of that energy. So let's put the pieces together here. The person that this is for, you will have felt the pull to become or to step into the absolute authenticity of you. If we look at dimensions, teaching through dimensions. So what does this mean? First dimension is you have an experience. Second dimension, you express it. Third, you integrate and understand it. And the fourth is you transcend into a completely different version. You are actually have done that in all 4 suits of the queens, the state of queen energy. You are now molding them all together. You are the result of all the work that has been done. It's a living embodiment of divine Empress, divine feminine energy is what it is. It is having cultivated all of those different things. How does this relate to the new moon energy? The energy that is really the undercurrent or the overflow. It's all 3 at once, I'm hearing. It's being shown to me as all 3 at once. It's like a total movement that's pushing out. It's above, it's below, and it's within. You'll notice that's the Holy Trinity as well. Mind, body, spirit, mother, maid, and crone. There's all these different ways that you can tap into it or explain it or put it into the idea, but I am being shown it must be the four dimensions. When you take those first 4 dimensions of those experiences and you continually transcend them through the layers, whether it's through the Queen of Hearts, Queen of Spades, Queen of Clubs, or Queen of Diamonds, you then move into the Empress state of embodiment. This is a completely different version of you. This is somebody who operates from all 4 facets, drawing from them when they need them, understanding they are all of them, and yet all of them separate are actually one. It's this type of embodiment that many divine feminines are stepping into in this energy, in this year, really going after what it is you actually want, really not caring what anyone else thinks. There's somebody on here, I keep getting this message, you need to let your creations live. You need to create from a state of that total embodiment of your authentic self. So when we look at the aspects of authenticity and directing energy, or 6th dimension, because the Empress state is actually 5th dimension, if you were to put it in the aspect or perspective of dimensions based on the first 4 of the queens into the Empress. This whole idea, I want you guys to think about this. When you think about somebody that you are really drawn to, that you wish you could do things like, wish you could embody that energy, you think they're absolutely amazing, I want you to notice there's this thing about that person that it's actually them being in their absolute authenticity, unapologetically, knowing that some people will love them and knowing some people will be completely repelled by them. How do you think they're magnetizing energy? How do you think you're drawn to them? It's because they're in their complete state of authenticity. The second you are willing to be all of you, you suddenly come into a flow. When we are doing all this work, this is part of the work of the queens, becoming all of you, evolving from the darkness or the shadows of your lessons, understanding different facets of yourself and the facets of the 3D earth plane. If you think about that, that's what the draw is. That's the magnetization. When somebody's in their full authentic self, unapologetically, completely open, that's the state that the Empress goes to. And the Empress does not start as an Empress. The Empress goes through all the different states. Think about the puzzle pieces of your journey. Let's just put them together now. If you've been working on love, if you've been working on wealth, if you've been working on boundaries, if you've been working on alchemizing things, these are facets of you. These are facets of, or aspects, or archetypes, or different energies that the Empress embodies. It is not just one thing. It is a culmination of all of them. It is the absolute result of that culmination into the embodiment of the Empress. And that's what somebody is stepping into at this time on this channel. You will know based on your life journey. If you wondered why you've been all the places you've been going, if you wonder why you've been gathering all these random pieces and it seems to be all over the place, if you struggled with all of those things in some way, shape, or form, it was to literally shape and mold you into the Empress energy, because that's what you came for. And it's very different than a High Priestess energy. And I'm being told it's important for me to separate these out because they are two different energies, but one flows into the other, or I'm hearing it's a status thing, which is so interesting. If we look at the 3D earth plane, you could look at it as a status thing. Oh, the sun is just beaming brightly right here, right now. Sorry, friends, I had to actually stop the video because the sunshine beaming through was so bright that it blinded me, blinded by the light, and I had to stop the video. So when we're talking about this Empress energy, that Empress energy that most of you are being called to embody is actually the embodiment of the full power of you, completely comfortable in your skin. If you move from the state of the High Priestess, so we'll go 4 queens into the High Priestess who oversees the 4 queens as they do the individual work, progressing into the state of the Empress, which is absolutely unconditionally comfortable in her own skin. She is creative. She is in her full power. It's being at absolute peace with who you are. That means being comfortable in your body, being comfortable with wealth, being comfortable with all these different things. It's the creation of heaven bringing down to earth. In addition, if we're moving from the queens to the High Priestess into the Empress, some of you are the 4 queens and the High Priestess were together. It's almost like you as the High Priestess was split into the 4 queens. That's what I'm seeing it as. And jumping from the queens or the state of the 4 queens into the Empress, not to take away from the High Priestess, because that's where you're doing the work, and the Empress is where you are the living embodiment or the result of the work that has been done, embodied. So most of you are feeling this push, this power, at least I hope you are, to create, to be completely authentic and comfortable in your skin, your sensuality, with your body, with your mind. Empress is both a beautiful, sensual, sexual siren being, but she's also got the brain or the intelligence. She's incredibly loving and nurturing. She is incredibly sensual and creative. She also has the ability to cut things out without a second thought. So she's the embodiment of all the 4 queens in some way, shape, or form. This is the energy we're being asked to step into, the full status of that comfortableness with the complete authenticity of self. This is the energy, right? So you're going to be shown, you're going to be able to identify, where have I been half of myself for someone else because I'm afraid of the retaliation or people judging me or people not liking it, and where in your life have you had wounds of people that have said, don't be this, don't be that, don't be you, that has hurt you and caused you to fear being in your total authenticity. Being in your total authenticity is actually being in your personal power. There is no difference. And the reason why this is important is when you're fully authentically you, honoring the light and the shadow. Like, think about it, you guys. The Empress, she doesn't say no to the shadow and she doesn't say no to the light. She understands both have a seat at the table, both have a role, both play a role. Go to the High Priestess, I'm hearing. The High Priestess in the Tarot deck represents duality. It represents the balance, flanked by a pillar of dark and a pillar of light. It's the duality. It's reconciling the duality takes you to a state of the Empress. It's a powerful, positive force of energy to be reckoned with. And in a lot of divine feminines, there's fear in stepping into that total empowerment of the self. And usually that fear is actually rooted in the reactions or the statements or the opinions of other people outside of you, of who you should be, who they want you to be in their life, right? And how they may view you. That's the reason you have the fear of being in your greatest light or your greatest power, because your greatest light has integrated dark. If we look at the year of the dragon, my personal perspective and how I intuitively sense this year of the wood dragon, I actually sense it as that culmination, the reconciliation of honoring both the shadow side and the light side. That's where you're in the greatest state of power. You're never in the greatest state of power when you're just in dark. You're never in the greatest state of power when you're just in light. To take these two aspects and instead of going back and forth here and go straight up, that's the balance, that's the power, that's the Empress bringing it down. If it comes from the High Priestess of the duality and the opposition and the knowledge and the understanding, moving into the Empress means you're coming to the table with a profound amount of wisdom and knowledge from the underworld. So while I'm being told to separate High Priestess and the Empress, the progression from the High Priestess into the Empress energy, which is complete authenticity, completely powerful in yourself, very creative and sensual and abundant and intelligent. She represents the embodiment of divine feminine energy. And she also represents, think about this, creation itself. That's a representation of the yin divine feminine energy of creation itself. Just as the Emperor, you could say that that status or that idea represents the creator itself in the masculine energy principle. There's both sides of it, right? In the High Priestess, what is it? There's the dark pillar and there's the light pillar, which is the yin and the yang. It's the number 2. It's the representation of opposition, but it's also in the middle. The High Priestess is the balance. It's taking the things from the dark and the light, and the dark and the light, and it's alchemizing and it's learning. It's figuring out all those calculations to only step into the Empress, which is drawing up profound knowledge from the underworld and also touching the heavens, bringing that heaven down to the physical embodiment of earth. It is a total authenticity of self. What if I told you that's all you ever had to do? You only ever had to do as your purpose. Everybody's like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Your purpose is to be totally and authentically you, because your true purpose can only come or be unfolded or the path found when you're in your total authenticity of you. And that's not to say, those of you who aren't in the authenticity of you, it's not to say you're not on your path and you're not on your purpose, because if you're working on you, you're always going to be on your path and your purpose, because you are your purpose. Your purpose doesn't happen without you. So we're being called right now to be all of us, to be comfortable in our skin, to honor ourselves, to let our creations live, to recognize where we have been, recognize, put the puzzle pieces together, recognize where you have been, recognize what you have come through, recognize that you are still standing, and recognizing you've been learning the lessons to embody this Empress energy. It's going from the 4, the separation, into the individual 1, personal empowerment. It is such an incredible, beautiful energy. But I'm just being told Empress, 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 Empress repeatedly. And that really is the energy that the Planetary Commission is pushing us towards, to be more authentically ourselves in all of our dark and light, in all of our joys and our sorrows, to just be authentically who we are, because that's the most magnetic, most resonant, most powerful state to be in. It's also the state we learn our lessons much easier. We are no longer resisting against our authentic self by the resistance, which is coming from what we were told to be. You are becoming the Empress by becoming more authentically you, unapologetically, comfortable in your skin, easily creating, easily stepping into the different modes of who you are. And all of this comes from authenticity of the self, not needing to be something that you're not needing to be something that somebody else wants you to be, and certainly not dimming down your light and being less than because it makes other people uncomfortable. Because somebody on here, you have experienced that in spades, is what I am hearing. So this is exciting energy. All the planetary shifts, all the energy, all the undercurrents, all the 2023 prep has been literally so that you could begin this new journey in this suddenly seeing yourself and being comfortable with who you are, where you are, what you are, and why you are, in a total state of flow. Think about it, mind, body, and spirit. When those things are all in cohesiveness, you're always in your most authentic self. Are you not? And when you pull out a piece of it, the mind's over here, but the heart's over here, you're second guessing yourself because it's not congruent, is what I'm hearing. But we're pulling it all back in, stepping into this Empress state. You're going to be able to identify where your logic and your heart are out of alignment, and specifically with your spiritual aspects or what your spirit wants to do. I'm being told there's somebody on here who is such a beautiful, wonderful creator, and you haven't really let your creations live because you're having a battle between your mind and your heart. But your spirit is coming down the center middle as your balance point, as your equilibrium, to say, hey, you come here, and we're going to rock and roll. That's a message on here for somebody who's been fighting mind versus heart. All that's ever going to do is become such a duality that it ends up pushing them both back together in alignment. All paths lead home is what I am hearing for whoever that message is for. I guess you could say this energy is be you. The only thing you ever had to do was be you. You came here to be authentically you, not what you were told to be, not what you thought you were based on what you were told to be, not what you were conditioned to be, but you actually came here to just be authentically you. And for some of us, that is the purpose, to be unequivocally, unapologetically, wildly weird, eccentric, or maybe you are very status quo. I don't know. It doesn't matter. As long as you are all of you, that's what we're being pushed into in this energy. And the last thing I want to say is this doesn't have to be a loud thing that you project out to others. This is me. Because you might see that. You might sense that. You might experience that or observe that outside of you. For some of us, it is the quietest revolution. It is the quietest revolution because it's really an inner growth. It's an inner evolution. It's an inner alignment. It can be the quietest revolution. And sometimes the quietest revolution ends up being the loudest. The revolution is the evolution of you, or the evolution is the revolution of you. I'm excited for whoever this Empress is. And I feel like it's collective. I'm hearing there's a collective subset of souls of divine feminines who are stepping into the embodiment of their Empress energy. You will feel that draw. You will feel that pull. You will feel yourself being fed up. I'm hearing for somebody on here, fed up with people telling you who you shouldn't be, what you shouldn't do, how you should do it, why you should do it that way, why it's wrong for you, despite the fact that you know it's right for you. That's simply their opinions being projected onto you. They're telling you their opinions not because you should be different. They're telling you that opinion because they're viewing for the lens of what's right for them. And what's right for you isn't necessarily going to be right for them. But that doesn't mean that they get to decide what's right for you. Take back your power, I'm hearing for somebody on there. Just because somebody else thinks it's right for you doesn't mean it is. And the Empress is the one who stands in the absolute balance, understands her strengths and her weaknesses, her light and her dark, and follows that calling of the balance of her spiritual connection of who she is, what she is, and why she is. and she allows other people to have their opinions, but she does not allow their opinions to sway her from her own true north node, is what I'm hearing, her own authentic true self, nor the work that she has done on this earth plane in order to be able to embody that state of being, because not everybody is going to be embodying that in this specific lifetime. So it's exciting. I'm happy for whoever this is. And I'm wishing you all a wonderful, super new moon in Aquarius, manifesting whatever you want in your total authenticity, because the flow will be magic when you do. Until next time, beautiful souls.